Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Austin Lord. I'm also one of the academic advisors here for the College of Science and Math. Today I'm going to go over some advising degree requirements, some of the more general requirements and forms and some stuff that you can kind of look at. So first we'll just kind of talk about the structure of a degree. What is a bachelor's degree made of? So this little pie chart on the left kind of breaks it down to some different types of classes, some different unit counts, things like that. First thing we need to understand, though, is a bachelor's degree is made of a total of 120 units. And the way that's broken up is mostly going to be major requirements and general education, or GE. And so your major requirements for psychology is about 48 units, maybe give or take, a couple extra, maybe you're up to 50, 51, depending on exactly what you take, but a minimum of 48. 49 units for general education, which most of you as transfer students will have most of this done already. And then if you add those two up, do the math, carry the one, right? Come up with like 97, I guess. So about 23 more elective units in order to get to the full 120. And some of those may have already been done. Some of those may be additional GE courses maybe that you took at the community college, or some fun classes, or some AP scores. So you may not actually need the full 23 units of electives. And electives really just mean anything that's not already, done for your major. So major requirements are your major psych classes, your general ed, again, it's general ed stuff. Electives, people ask me sometimes, can I see a list of electives? I'm like, well, it's kind of the entire catalog. It's anything that, you want to take, whether it's more major stuff, whether it's a minor or a certificate, or even just fun stuff. Like I said, I took, fencing, for example, at Fresno State one semester. It was just a 1-unit class, but I got to wake up on Wednesday mornings and put on the suit and a little sword and stuff and took fencing. So stuff like that. In addition to the units, there are some specific degree requirements that are more like milestones or kind of just boxes that have to be checked along the way. And the first one of those I'll cover is English composition. Everybody does have to have some sort of English class done. Again, most of you probably should be transferring this in. This should be, kind of one of the minimum requirements for transfer. So, we'll honor, a course most of the time from community college, AP credit, things like that. So it's probably already done. United States history, same thing. I have been seeing a handful of transfers every day, maybe that don't have a U.S. history class. So maybe depending on where you're transferring from, if you never took specifically a U.S. history, you might need one. But again, generally people take one or two of these actually. They're community college, AP US, stuff like that. Usually we're good. Now the third one, the US and California Constitution, or the government requirement, or state or federal, state, local, you'll hear it called different things. Usually this is a poli-sci 2 course. That's the name here at Fresno State. It varies a little bit at different community colleges. Usually that's what's used to clear. However, AP Gov does not clear that here at Fresno State. That may have been used at your community college, however. Sometimes they accept that because, again, it's a government requirement. Fresno State specifically says you do have to have the federal, state, and local components, which AP Gov, I believe, either covers just federal or just federal and state and not local, or not state and local, something like that. So what we do offer is if you were someone who used AP Gov, even though we don't accept that credit on its own, we don't necessarily want to make you go take a full, poli-sci 2 class all over again. There are these poli-sci 102 or 103 classes where they're just a 1-unit supplement, essentially, just to get you that little bit to fully check off that requirement. So something worth looking into if you use AP Gov and you never took a poli-sci class, then that's for you. Most people, though, again, should probably have taken a, poli-sci 1, poli-sci 2, something along those lines that would clear that. The next two really, the multicultural international requirement and the up-division writing requirement, I'll get to later on. They actually have their whole, their own slides dedicated to them. The MI, multicultural international, is essentially, it's another kind of area like upper division general education type class, but it doesn't actually fall under general education. It used to. This is just kind of a wording change. It used to up until about 2018. So if you have friends maybe that got here before you a couple years ago, and maybe they started 2017 and they talked to you about your your 4 GE classes or your MI GE class, you're like, wait, what? It's just a wording change. And we'll get to the multicultural international, like the list of courses, in a little bit. Upper division writing, again, just by the time you graduate, we do want some sort of demonstration that you can write at a college level. And there are 2 ways to do that, with an exam or a course. I'll get to all that later. And then the 2 little notes at the bottom there. kind of going back to units. So 70 units is the maximum you can bring in from a community college towards your 120 units. Now that is a lot of words, and I worded that, hopefully very specifically, very technically. What that really means is you can take more courses than that. Maybe you took 80 or 90 units at community colleges. You'll get the box checked essentially for any classes that you took. You'll get that credit, not units necessarily, but credits, but we'll cut off your total that you brought in as 70. So you have to take at least 50 here. So even if you took 80, you took 90, there's still a minimum amount that you have to take here towards that 120. It's called residence. It's just saying, you were a Fresno State student for a certain minimum amount of units. Again, you'll get credit for everything that you took at a community college though. And this does not apply to four-year institutions, whether in-state, out-of-state, you went to, I've seen, obviously other CSUs and UCs, private colleges, Fresno Pacifics and Stanfords, and then you got, out of state, North Dakota and Texas and whatever, those don't apply, or that doesn't apply that same 70 unit threshold. So I've definitely seen transfer students come in with 100 units. And that's, that they're bringing stuff in from UC Santa Barbara maybe, or, they came from UCLA and they came up here or whatever it was. So that, if you have questions about that, again, most of you probably this isn't really going to affect. This is not a negative thing for anybody, it's just kind of how we manage the units. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. But I think I'll just kind of move on from there. That one's definitely getting a bit technical. And we'll kind of go to the general education courses. This is our GE sheet, our general education sheet for Fresno State. This is the 2020-2021 academic year general education sheet. So, there's still many years worth of these floating around, I'm sure, on the internet. So just, try and check at the top there that you got the most recent one. There are little changes every year, especially since 2018, there was a big change, like I said. So definitely try and use the newest one that you can for this. That first box, those first four classes are foundation. Again, that's like the golden four that most of you should have before transferring. The next area is the breadth, and that goes all the way down about 2/3 of the sheet to that dark blue line. Below that is the upper division GE. And so I keep saying this, lower division, upper division. So I'm going to take a second to explain those and kind of how you can identify those courses. So lower division courses at Fresno State in general are numbered 1 through 99. So anything, single or double digits. And that generally means something kind of freshman or sophomore level. That's a rough, kind of description, but essentially it's, a more foundational, more broad, not super specific type of class, and usually taken earlier on. Upper division is something numbered 100 through 199. So triple digits up to, anything less than 200. And that's, again, more junior, senior levels, a rough, description of those. They're usually more specific. And they're things that can only be taken at a four-year institution, right? That the community colleges max out just anything lower division. Anything upper division is at a four-year institution, a bachelor's granting institution like us. So for the lower division GE, again, most of you should have most, if not all of this done. Again, we'll take AP scores, so make sure you have those sent to us as well, your transcripts. Some of you may be admitted from, without all of these areas done, whether that's, you didn't take them fully at the community college, which is fine. Or, sometimes due to, just bringing stuff in and the admissions team kind of having to manually move some of these classes around as they, maybe go more than one area. You may not have the every single area fulfilled, in which case, I'll talk about this in a second, but that may lead to some slight issues with registration, just in upper division GE classes, where they're looking for these lower division. And so we'll get to those and kind of prioritizing those in a second. And then upper division, again, there are 3 upper division GE courses, and those do have their own slides. So I think I'll just move on to that now and kind of really dig into that area. So the 3 upper division GE areas, so now I just kind of, zoomed in on that area of the sheet, that bottom part underneath that dark blue line. You can see it's called integration, 3 upper division courses, 1 in each area. And the areas are called IB, IC, and ID for integration, B, C, and D. And if you notice, that kind of matches up with the lower division areas, right? There's an area B in lower division, that's your kind of more sciences area, and it's called the same thing here, physical, universe, and its life forms. It's the science area. IC is like lower division C, ID is like lower division D. However, these are the upper division, the kind of more, a little more rigorous classes of those areas. Then there's also the multicultural international classes that we put right below that. Again, they used to be included on the GE sheet. Now they're a degree requirement. It's just a wording change. But my understanding is they do enforce the prereqs the same on those. So I'll kind of cover that all as one whole topic. So if you notice, next to each of the IB, IC, and ID, it says prerequisite completion of foundation and area, insert area here, B, C, or D. So to get into IB, for example, you have to have your foundation, which again was the golden four, the communications, English, critical thinking, and math, as well as your full area B done. Then you can get into IB. Same thing for area C, foundation, and area C, lower division, you can get into IC. Same thing for area D. And then the multicultural international, I believe, still enforces the lower division area D prerequisite as well. So we'll kind of include those with area ID in terms of prereqs. So this is now going back to what I was saying about some issues potentially with enrollment. If maybe you brought in some classes and maybe they all kind of got, automatically sorted into area D, even though maybe at your community college they were in area C, you may be missing something in C and have extra classes in D, but your C may be partially empty. You might not be able to get into an IC class today until we have, until the admissions team goes through and kind of moves those around manually once they've gotten to that point. So, just keep that in mind. If you're getting an error, prerequisite error for any of the GE classes, that's probably the case. You can run a DPR, degree progress report, and see if there are any, holes kind of in your GE or anything missing. That would kind of explain why. And so if you are missing those, again, maybe double check with an advisor, see if you have, the correct areas done and they just need to be moved around manually. Or if you're actually missing, courses in a certain GE area and you need to prioritize taking those lower division ones before we even start worrying about the upper division ones. So definitely, keep that in mind while enrolling that, some of these may, ACT funding may not be available right away. So I think that's it for general education, multicultural international. We'll go on to the upper division writing skills now. So I did mention earlier, there are two ways to fulfill this. One being the exam, which is unfortunately suspended right now. That would normally be taken on campus. And you go and you sit and, you have an hour to read a prompt and write an essay, and you take like a 10-minute break, and then you do another hour and another essay. And, you can take this exam up to twice, to try and get around a class. But again, right now we're not offering anything because campus is essentially closed. So I'm just gonna focus on the class aspect of this right now. So you do have to earn a minimum grade of a C or a CR credit in one of the following courses. There's that whole list, but we do highlight two classes first, and that's the Anthropology 116W and Anthropology 105W. So if you notice, these upper division writing courses are anything with a W, right? That ends in W, that's for writing, and they fulfill this requirement. So Anthro 116W, Anthro 105W, and these we do like to point out because they do double count in your GE as well. So 116W double counts in area ID, 105W double counts in the multicultural international. So it's kind of a two birds with one stone type of deal. But because of that, they're always, very full. They fill up quickly. They disappear, early on in registration. So I definitely wouldn't expect to see any of those right now. But if that's something you're interested in, looking up the topics, seeing if they, look like good classes, and you want to maybe hold off on that area until spring, and we'll try and jump on one of those early in registration for next semester, the following semester. Something to keep in mind, there are those classes, but we do have the full list here. And as you can see, there's a lot of different topics, a lot of different areas that you can take these writing classes. There's just kind of some more general writing stuff like English 160W, especially if you're maybe considering med school, something pre-professional that does want, a second college level English course. Maybe that would be a good one. The Business Administration BA 105, writing some, business, communication type stuff. EES 135W is a dinosaurs class. Everybody likes dinosaurs. That one's kind of fun. That disappears quickly too, of course. Sociology 130W deals with kind of current social issues. So that's a pretty popular one, especially with the psych majors. The anthropology classes are on there. There's also a new one. I believe it's that Asian American Studies 151W. It's Asian American Foodways. And that one, I don't know. I want to know what the homework is on that one. I think that would be super interesting. So as you can see, wide variety here. You do just have to take one, and if it's not one of those anthropology classes that double counts, then it goes into your electives box. So again, this still fulfills, multiple things just by taking this. It gets you units towards the 120. It clears the writing requirement. It's probably a pretty fun class depending on what you get into. So, definitely something to keep an eye out for. Pretty low prereqs usually, so this is even something you could find today if you wanted, especially if some of the upper division areas are not working out. So I think that is pretty much all for the general requirements and boxes to check. Again, some of the more technical stuff, some of the more, but general requirements, nothing, specific to, psychology or anything like that. This is kind of for everybody, any degree.